Hi, everyone, and welcome to Audubon Society of Central Arkansas's monthly meeting. I'm Dan Scheinman, the Vice President of this Audubon chapter. I'm glad you all could join us tonight. Tonight's presenter doesn't need an introduction, not one of our fellow birders, but my contract says I'm legally obligated to introduce her. So, Karen Holliday migrated from Nebraska to Arkansas when she was 6. She has a BS in natural science from UA Fayetteville. In July 2019, she retired from a career at the Capitol in the Legislative Research Office. Before that, she was an interpretive ranger at the Buffalo National River. Joining Audubon Society in Central Arkansas in 2004 introduced her to the diversity of Arkansas's birds. And since 2007, she's been the chapter's field trip coordinator. She also is past president of Arkansas Audubon Society. She enjoys introducing birders to the many great birds and birding sites of Arkansas, as well as traveling around the world and the country. And tonight she will share one of her international adventures with us. Take it away, Karen.
Thank you, Dan. This is our trip to Antarctica this February. And remember, we're south of the equator, so that's literally their summer. It's not going to look like summer in Antarctica because there's a lot of snow and ice you're going to see. But we had signed up with Rhodes Scholar. It got postponed because of COVID. They've started us back up again. We got the news that we could get back into Chile. That was our starting point, was to fly into Chile. And then, okay, there we go. And then fly from Punta Arenas down the southern and down in Patagonia over to the Antarctic Peninsula, because we all agreed we did not want to do the Drake Passage. That's a horrible, it's the worst seas in the world. It's 2 days over and 2 days back, and guaranteed you're probably seasick most of the time. So we spent the extra money and booked with Rhodes Scholar, had a sail and fly trip, and they use Antarctica 21 for the flight to Antarctica, and then the ship, they own the ship Magellan Explorer. And we got extremely lucky with the delay for COVID. The ship we were supposed to be on got pulled out of service to be refurbished and everything, and we got a brand new ship, year-old, beautiful, balconies, floor-to-ceiling windows. We got super, super lucky. So this is the area. We flew into Santiago, then down to Punta Arenas, and we stayed in Punta Arenas an extra day because there's a very narrow window that the plane can fly in and out of Antarctica. And it's like, and if they don't get that 4 hours, then they have to cancel. And they canceled us, and so we were, not happy because we went, oh, there goes one of our days in Antarctica. But Nicole Flores, who is Chilean, and she was our tour leader, our group leader, works with Rhodes Scholar. She pulled together a city tour of Punta Arenas. It's a very famous harbor, a well-known. It's a jumping off place and has been for several hundred years of going to the South Polar exploration. The ships would reprovision and get more sailors and stuff, and then head to Antarctica and the South Pole. And so that was so it's a very important point. It's not as important as it was because when they opened up the Suez Canal, then everybody didn't have to go around the Cape Horn. So of course we had to do a little street shopping on the city tour. And Anita is my roommate. She was my roommate. She's from Conway. This Kathleen Mueller. They bought caps, and then I bought a penguin sweater made out of guanaco wool. And talk about soft and warm. It was great. I wore it too. We also got to see the replica of Ferdinand Magellan's ship. And we hoped our ship would have a little more amenities and be a little bigger than this one. We also got to hang out at Shackleton's bar, which is famous, and Shackleton and a lot of the other South Polar explorers hung out there. And so then we got the word that we were a go and leaving the next day. So we flew from Punta Arenas over the nasty Drake Passage, which was wonderful because, like I said, just 2 hours, to the South Shetland Islands and landed on King George Island. And then we picked up our ship there, and then we did loop-de-loops around the western side of the Antarctic Peninsula back to King George, and then flew back to Punta Arenas. And we got within 73 nautical miles of the Antarctic Circle. We really wanted to try and cross it, but that's a whole different trip. And we had a great trip, so it wasn't too bad. Is this my next slide? Okay. What I'm going to do here is the Antarctica 21 has a photographer, and Rodrigo, and he took photos and videos of our whole trip. And then the last night we were on the boat, he had put together a video of our trip. And then we were told that it was part of our package, and we got to keep the video, the photos, and we could use them, share them with anyone we wanted to. It has sound, it has music, you can hear the penguins. So it's about 12 minutes long, and hopefully this is going to work. Click it, I did click, okay. Okay. Frey Station, this is a Frey Station, that's where we landed at King George. This is the Chilean research. Here's the sound. Oh, okay.
I can hear the sound of the video.
Pardon?
I can hear the video sound just fine.
Oh, you could? Okay.
taken each other as husband and wife and your better halves. Take care of each other and cherish your relationship. Love you today, tomorrow, and forever. Be open, honest, and faithful to each other. Wahoo! By the authority invested in me by the power of the penguin, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride and the groom.
Okay. Were you able to hear the penguins and the music and everything? Great. All right. Like I said, oops. Okay, here we go. This was our plane, flew into King George Island, and Frey Station is the research station run by the Chilean government. And we walked past it down to the harbor to get on our ship. And as we did, we were on the right-hand side going down to the harbor. Frey Station's there on the right. And this is the group that has come off the ship and is getting ready to get on the plane and go back to Chile. And so that's how they run it. And they were cheering us and clapping for us and, you know, saying, yay, you're going to have so much fun. So that was really, really fun to have them cheer us on. And we also walked past the Chinese research station, which is very aptly named the Great Wall. There are a multitude of research stations scattered around the Antarctic Peninsula area. Went out to the boat, and first thing is we had to have a safety briefing. That's my sister on the left, and Jimmy and John. And then we were taken down to the boot room, and you were issued a pair of boots and a life jacket, and you kept it in your locker number that matched your cabin. And you wore the boots when you went on the shore excursions and came back, and then put your ship shoes on. They did not want to contaminate anything at all. And so this is my boots. I had to show everybody how you used a boot jack. Nobody on the ship knew how to use a boot jack. I know. And this is the boot washing station. When we came back from each shore excursion, you had to get up onto the little platform, and you'd stick one boot in, and it would squirt water and spin around just like a little baby car wash for your boot. And it'd clean it, and then you stick your other boot in, and then you walk through a pan of disinfectant in order to keep from any cross-contamination. We then met the staff and the scientists and research people that we would be listening talks from and things like that. And they kind of briefed us. These were the seals that we were probably going to see. We did see the Antarctic fur seal. Some of us saw the crab eater. The kayakers saw a leopard seal. We saw southern elephant seals at Penguin Island, our last island. Saw a couple of weddles. And this is the Antarctic fur seal. And they're pretty good sized, and they're cranky and grumpy, so you give them a wide berth. This is a weddle, and they're huge. And those are gentoo penguins run along the back there. We also got lucky and saw the type C orcas. This is the smallest subspecies of the killer whales. They're yellow because they have diatoms on their skin that gives them that yellowish color. We also saw humpback whales too on 2 or 3 different occasions. Then the penguins that we were expected to see were the gentoo, the chinstaff, the Adelie. The emperor's penguin is much further south of where we were. And the king penguins are more over towards the Falklands and North Shetland. And so here are gentoos. There's a mix of adults sitting on their little rock mounds for their nest, and then quite a few juveniles scattered in through there. Snowy, who was our ornithologist, said these small chicks were not going to make it. It was too late in the summer, and they weren't going to have enough time to get big enough and grow in their adult feathers. And that's very important. These are all juveniles. They're shedding their pin feathers, growing in their adult feathers, because their pin feathers are not waterproof. So they have to get all their adult feathers grown in, because the adult feathers are waterproofed, and then they can safely go in the water. Those were gentoos also, and you can see all the pin feathers on the ground. These are the chin straps, and that's a junior on the side there. And you can see the regurgitation process is pretty messy. Parent and kid both get kind of messy. Another group of chin straps that we ran into. These are the sweet little Adelie penguins. We didn't see a whole lot of those. And they were easy to identify with that black face and black back. Found some penguin tracks in the snow. I put my glove down to give you an idea of the size. Then a couple of the other birds that we saw, a few of the others were the Antarctic shag, which is a cormorant up on the top here. Off and on, we would have an Antarctic tern fly around. The skuas, you saw them bathing in the video. They look for snow melt, which is fresh water. That allows them to wash the salt out of their feathers. So they're always looking for fresh water. What? Ray's trying to tell me something. This was an interesting group, a mix of a fur seal, a bunch of skuas, there's some gentoos over there, and then there's a big old kelp gull in the middle. And Snowy kept a record of all the birds and animals that we saw and would check them off each day so you could see, you know, who was seeing what. And Alan and I found the black-browed albatross, and he said, oh yeah, you're right. Campephilus is one of the landings. We're now on the Antarctic Peninsula. This has been our fearless leader from the ship. He's explaining the algae blooms on the snow. It is red algae and green algae. It's becoming more predominant because of global warming. It feeds on, it needs fresh water, and it needs the nutrients from the penguin colonies. And the bad part is because it causes it to absorb more heat, and it melts the snow more faster. Before we'd ever get on land, each shore excursion, the staff would go out and they would put out flags, and that was the markers as to where we couldn't pass. We had to stay inside the flags so we didn't bother the penguins or the seals or anybody, and you just kind of kept an eye and walked through the flags. Everywhere we big eyes. And the color was beautiful. Some of the bays had a lot of snow and snow melt and huge ice fields. Probably close to 1,000 feet high, I would guess. Nico Harbor, that's where we were able to make landing, and the staff would put up activity, what was coming, told you what penguins you're going to see. This was the continental landing, the wind and temperature and terrain. And here we are at the 7th continent. That's been on my bucket list for a very long time. I wanted to see Antarctica, and I wanted to get all 7 continents. And this gave me my last and 7th continent. So I was very, very excited. And we walked up, everybody had to take their pictures. And that's me, of course, very excited. And then we walked up the snowfield, and then to get back down, you just sat down and slid down the hill through the big trough there. It was fun. And then when you got to the bottom, you had to be careful and go around the big Weddell seal that was laying at the bottom sleeping. Again, more icebergs, huge. And the clouds, the sky was always changing. This is some gentoos. Over here to the right are whale vertebrae. It's a part of a whale carcass. And this is the carcass of a gentoo penguin. Snowy pointed out that they have a huge breastbone because they have massive chest muscles to power them through the water, their flippers through the water. And here's a gentoo foot, part of the carcass, and they have black toenails. I never remembered to ask Snowy why they had black toenails, but this is what a live gentoo looks like. They were real obvious with their red bill and their white eyebrows. And then this just again to show you some of the size of the eyes compared to the ship. And this little area right here seemed to be a favorite for the gentoos to go for a swim. And I caught them coming down through the rocks and into the water and further into the water and pretty much submerged. And then they swam around in circles for a couple minutes, and it was hilarious. They had their tails cocked up. This is February the 14th, Valentine's Day. They put up our schedule every morning. They had on here surprise dinner, dress warm, and that was our cookout. It was one of the coldest days of the whole trip, and the food was delicious. Nita and Jimmy and John. And this is my Lynn and Cindy waiting in line for their food. And you can see it's pretty cold. It was very windy and very cold. And this is me, and I've got my guanaco wool sweater on, and I was toasty warm. They even made a Valentine's cake for us. And this is Alan and Kathleen Mueller, and they were enjoying the hot mulled wine. And then this is what happens if you are out on the deck in the wind and you forget to put your hat on. That's what happens to your hair. This is Whalers Bay, and that's Deception Island. It's a caldera, it's a volcano, and it's a caldera which is flooded with seawater. There's a narrow entrance, and the whalers back in the 17 and 1800s came in here, would bring their whales in that they had killed and cut them up for meat, and also would store the whale oil. And because this is an active volcano, there's a lot of heat, and the mist is from the heat coming up through the volcanic sand and hitting the cold air. So it made kind of an eerie looking landscape. These are the whaling skiffs that a couple of them that were left, that they would use to go out and bring the whales back to the big ship. And you can see whale bones in the back there. Several of us decided to walk down the beach to Neptune's Window. This is Neptune's Window, this formation here. And you skirted the fur seals and then walked up the path. And the reason was the ocean was on the other side. You could see the ocean, and spectacular view from there. And this is where we saw our Cape petrels here, which is a beautiful little bird. And this is the polar plunge. That's what you were seeing on the video. It's not legal, or you haven't done it properly if your head doesn't go underwater. And so we ran out and it was warm. The water was warm in the shallow area. That's why he's grinning and rolling around. It's like bath water right there, heated by the volcano steam. And then you get out about thigh or waist deep, and all of a sudden you go, oh goodness, this is cold. We dove in and jumped right back out and came running back up. And everybody that did the polar freeze got the traditional shot of vodka. And every evening it was nice after a busy day to clean up and come to dinner. And the dinners were just fabulous every single night. And the chef was amazing. He would make each one of the items on the menu and put it out there at the entrance to the dining hall, the dining room, and labeled everything so you knew what your food was and that you were going to be able to choose from. And he even had starters. He had starters, main course, and dessert. And if you wanted more than one dessert, you could have it. You just had to ask. A beautiful presentation. And then it was time to go to bed, and our cabins were great. This is a floor to ceiling window. This is a heavy watertight door that leads out to the little balcony. And the nice room with closets over here, bathroom on the left. And then you could hang your crusty, salty, wet outer shore excursion clothes on the hooks to let them dry overnight. And the bathrooms even had heated floors, which was very nice in Antarctica. We were quite spoiled. We got delayed because of weather, and oh dear, we couldn't fly out. What a shame. We had to spend another night in Antarctica. So we were very excited about that to make up the day we'd lost when we couldn't come in. So they took us up to Penguin Island. It's a small ship. Like I said, it's a maximum of 100 passengers, not like the big ocean going cruise ships. So we were able to go in and out of a lot of narrow places. And there was quite a bit of ice going up through this narrow channel. And you could hear it rubbing against the side of the ship as we went along. And some ice out in the, and then we'd hit some kind of patches of ice. This is Penguin Island. It stays snow-free year-round. It's a volcano also with the top blown off. And Alan and I had wanted to see a snowy sheathbill the entire trip. That was my bird that I wanted. And Snowy kept saying, oh, they hang around, we're going to see them, not a problem. Day after day, no sheathbill. Finally, we weren't able to get off the boat to go to shore because the surf was too rough for the Zodiacs, but they got us really close. And my little sister, Lynn, said, what are those white dots on, or blobs on the cliffs there running around and flying? And Snowy looked at it and went, oh, there's your sheathbills. So we got our sheathbill, and it's the only land bird. It's not webbed feet, so it can't swim. And it's a pretty tough little bird. It's they call them the garbage men of the Antarctic, because their favorite things to eat are regurgitated penguin food. And they'll actually run in and knock a chick out of the way if they can, while the mother's trying to regurgitate, because if the food gets regurgitated onto the ground, the baby penguin won't eat it. And they also like penguin poo too. They eat penguin poo. So the wonderful boat staff said goodbye to us. And this can kind of show you, where all we went. And then this is the end of our Antarctic part of the trip. We flew back to Punta Arenas. This is Cape Horn. This is the very, very tip of South America. And then we, because we were we'd lost a day getting back, we only had one full day in Torres del Paine National Park, the famous national park. And we had a lovely lodge in the park boundaries. The big lake behind the lodge with the glacier that had calved off several icebergs. And a very busy pair of Magellanic woodpeckers. This is the largest, most southernmost Campephilus, genus Campephilus. And they were very busy, very loud, and that was a real treat to watch them right there at the lodge. We were able, through Nicole's help, Alan and I hired a birding guide for the day, and he drove us all over the park. And Alan got 44 new species of birds. I had been there before in 2018, but I picked up a few new birds on the trip. We had austral pygmy owls, a pair here, which I was excited to see. That was new. Crested caracaras. Here's another lake in the park, and we picked up flying steamer ducks, great grebes, and some other water birds along those lines. And then here's the guanaco, pretty good sized herds of guanaco in the far end of the park. And that's the wool that's in my penguin sweater. And unfortunately, the weather stayed cloudy the 2 days we were there. And so the rest of the group didn't get to see the famous horns, but we still had a great time. And as we left the park, going through the Patagonia areas, there were big groups of rheas as we went along. We also had black-chested buzzard eagles, more condors, flamingos, Chilean flamingos. It was a pretty birdie trip. The last day, we then flew back to Santiago. The last full day we had, they took us to the oldest winery in Chile, and we got a great tour of the winery, wonderful lunch, wine tasting, and their museum. We got to go through their museum. And this was, I think, COVID test number 4 throughout the trip, but you could see got a negative. And we were able to leave Chile and fly home, and I got my certificate saying that I had followed the steps of the intrepid early explorers by sailing through the icy waters of the 7th continent and crossing the Antarctic boundaries beyond latitude 60 degrees south. So, oops. Okay, now what do I do? I'm done.
Okay, stop share then. Or you can
Okay.
stop, we can stop here, and you can ask questions of Karen. You can unmute yourself to ask questions or post your questions in the chat. And we do have a question in the chat. Let's see, where was that? Do all these birds migrate to Argentina or Chile in winter?
I know the sheathbill stay year round. The penguins stay year round. I don't know about the Antarctic tern. Because there's still open water around, but I don't know. That's a good question. I know a lot of the birds stay.
I was thinking of the shags particularly, who would be unable to feed, I would have thought, in total darkness.
But that's true. And yes, we saw a lot of the shags at Punta Arenas in the harbor area. So I imagine that once the ice got to, the water got covered with ice, they probably did migrate back up to Argentina or Chile in that area.
And a lot of those birds, penguins and skuas and stuff, go out to sea, spend the winter out at sea.
How do they cope with the darkness?
A couple of
then?
things. Yeah, it's dark. We had about between 15 and 16 hours of light still when we were there.
Good.
And the 2 books that I used was the Antarctica, had a little bit of whales, a little bit of birds, seals, and I also still have my birds of Chile from my first trip, so that was real handy. And then I mailed Ray, my husband, a postcard from Antarctica, and I think it cost a total of $14 for the postcard, the stamp, and the postage. It took a month for it to get. I mailed it the 16th. It took a month to get to.
That's great. Yeah,
And
kind of like it is here in Little Rock.
pardon?
It's sometimes we're on an auxiliary route in my neighborhood. It's kind of like it is here sometimes.
Yeah. One thing I learned, I love maps, and seeing all the names of all the different islands and the straits, like the Bransfield Strait,
Wow.
where we got kind of seasick. What was really helpful was I read, it's called Madhouse at the End of the Earth. That's a terrible. And then also Alone on the Ice. And these were some of the earlier Antarctic South Polar excursions, and a lot of everything that's down there is named for those early explorers. So they're really interesting books to read. The hardship, I can't imagine overwintering, like John was saying, with, total darkness for several months, and eating seal meat and seal liver and tinned food, canned food.
I will say, I don't know for sure, but I think even in the darkness of Antarctica, there would be some starlight, moonlight, and birds that had better vision than we do could see. Like snowy owls spend all winter in the Arctic and they get along just fine. So
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Another question from Lynn is, do the three types of penguins ever mingle together?
Yes, not a lot, but yes, they pretty much stay with their own. But we would see around the edges, maybe a bunch of gentoos, and then there'd be some chin straps over here. But they pretty much stayed in their groups.
Karen, describe the penguin poop.
Really stinky, kind of green and yellow.
Very fishy, right?
Yes, yeah. You could smell the penguin colonies before you saw them. The wind was just right. Because we were talking about, you're talking about like, I think of one of the Gentoo colonies, they said they had 1,000 pair of Gentoos, which is what, 3,000 birds. So some of the colonies are huge down there, and then there'd be smaller pockets. The ones that were the most successful nesting were the ones that could get up the hill as far as they could, where the sun would melt the snow faster, and so they were able to start nesting, and their chicks got a head start by even though it was a long walk for a little penguin to go way up the mountainside, the hillside. It gave them the advantage of getting their chicks grown faster and sooner than like the chicks there that were right at the edge of the water that I showed you that were little, that Snowy said probably wouldn't make it. That's because that snow took probably longer to melt before they could get the open rocky terrain that they needed.
And the penguins are also very noisy birds.
Yes, could you hear any of them on the video?
No, but I remember I saw them in the Falkland Islands, and I mean, man, they are noisy birds. You hear them before you see them too.
I heard some in some of the video.
Okay, great.
Karen,
How many bird species did you see altogether on the whole trip?
105, I think, maybe.
Wow.
Alan can come up. Because I know we had 44 species in the park, and then we had anytime when we were especially because we had an extra day and a half in Punta Arenas, Alan and I, anytime we could, we would walk from the hotel down to the harbor and just bird like crazy. And then with the kind of the tours we were doing around the town and out, kind of outside of town, picked up a number of other birds, everything from southern lapwing to flamingos. So yeah, I kept a pretty good list.
Karen, could you say a little bit more about the diatoms on the orca? Because traditionally, I was real surprised by that. My picture of an orca is absolutely black and white, and yellow and black came as a shock.
Yes, they explained that it's the diatoms. I think they're little crustaceans. I meant to look that up because I've forgotten the explanation.
It's a kind of algae. Yeah,
Okay.
it's an algae.
And I guess because of the cold waters where they are located, the diatoms can flourish. So for some reason on this particular species.
Karen?
Yeah.
Just if I remember correctly, they said that one of the things they've learned is that those whales then migrate northward quite a ways, and when they get into the warmer waters, the diatoms fall off of them, and when they return back down, they are more black and white, or they lose that yellow color. Is that, do you remember that, them saying that?
Yeah, now that you say that, Lynn, yeah,
Interesting.
good memory.
And Karen, what was your favorite wildlife sighting of the trip?
Oh, wildlife. Oh,
Could be bird or not bird, either way.
I was so excited about Antarctica, everything. The penguins were all new for me. The couple of the seals were new for me. I was pretty excited about the Magellanic Woodpecker because I'd missed him on my previous trip. So that was pretty good.
Any other questions for Karen?
And can I read one last thing as we wrap up?
Yeah, go ahead.
Once the questions are done?
Go for it.
Okay, this is from Nicole Flores. She was our group leader, and she sent us an email later because it was a pretty challenging trip. It was her first trip after after COVID had died down enough that Chile felt like they could open it back up. And we had a lot of challenges with the testing and several different situations. So she sent this wonderful email. I think it's a great way to wrap it up. It's like I said, it's from Nicole with Rhodes Scholars. She said, "My dear team, unforgettable with an all new meeting, unforgettable. I just want to thank you. Thank you for being so brave to travel overseas in the particular conditions the world is facing with the pandemic. Thank you for being patient, filling out millions of complicated forms to come to my country. Thank you for your positive attitude since the beginning. Thank you for your trust in your leader. Thank you for making me feel proud of you on board, being the funniest, nicest, and smartest. You won the trivia game. For having fun, for being flexible, and a big, super big thank you for facing the bad moments, the complicated moments as real travelers, the ones that know things happen, and when the moment comes, you just go with the flow. Antarctica is literally a dream place for millions of people. Many of them know they will never have the chance we had, enjoying the pristine areas, the rugged mountains, penguins, seals, and whales. Perfection exists in films, documentaries, and photos, but what we had was pretty close. Keep safe and spread joy. The day we make people happy is a good day. Best regards. By far, you were one of my best teams. For that, I thank you. Your group leader, Nicole."
Oh,
Very good. And thank you, Karen, for sharing your adventures with us. It's been a great presentation and a great way to help us feel a little bit cooler in all this heat. We appreciate it.